Okay, hello everybody. It's Kanav here. It's been a very long time since I did a YouTube live. I thought of doing it right now. Just a second. Yes. So I received a video from. I'm sorry, a video. Received an email. Sorry, from Vardh Reddy on 12th July, and I thought of making this video to talk about it. So they had asked me to make a YouTube video about what are the challenges that gay people face when they're forced to marry heterosexual women. So I thought of making this video to address this issue. So I wanted to provide some context. I'm currently pursuing my master's degree, and in my master's thesis, I actually researched this very same topic. I interviewed people who are sexual minorities, some of whom happen to be gay men, and even some lesbian women. And I asked them the same question: that how do you deal with this pressure to not to marry somebody of the opposite sex, and what happens to you if you happen to if you end up actually marrying somebody of the opposite sex? So what I found was that this pressure that a lot of gay people end up facing, I want to mention that this pressure comes from family. It is not usually it is the parents, but in some cases it is also the relatives. In fact, some of my research participants told me that it wasn't only their parents who pressurized them to marry; it was the chacha, chachi, cousins, brother, sister, etc. So why I'm mentioning this is that there's a tendency in the community, gay community especially, that if you see somebody who is gay, who is marrying a woman, we tend to we tend to blame that person. We tend to tell we there's this tendency to blame the person and tell them, you know what, why are you doing this? You're ruining a woman's life. And I agree, it is a very problematic issue. But you have to understand that it is not really a choice that many gay people can make. Unfortunately, it is the family, it is the parents, it is the relatives who put this pressure. And let's be very honest here, some people like myself are privileged where we I don't have this the same kind of marriage pressure as somebody probably who's in a more conservative or orthodox family. So I think we need to keep that into consideration, that had you been born in a very conservative orthodox family where your parents had told you that by this age you have to get married, it's not easy for everybody to go resist and to oppose their parents. Another issue is financial security. A lot of people also say that, if you have your own money, you're financially secure, you can do whatever you want. But how many people actually have the ability to leave the house and live separately from their family if their parents disown them? It's very hard. So, it's a very, very complicated issue. And I think financial security is one thing that we need to look at. We also need to understand that parents also put pressure on their kids and relatives also put pressure. I have a comment here from Rupesh. Uh, till gay marriage will be legalized. I asked a lot of my participants about gay marriage. The thing is that, even if same sex marriage is legalized, I don't particularly think that it will create a solution for this issue, which is gay men marrying women. The reason is because in society there is still a lot of homophobia and there's still a lot of discrimination. What I have found that would be more helpful is education, and education for not just people from the community but also parents. How many of you who are gay, lesbian actually knew what gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender was when you were in school or college? Very few. In fact, I don't think it's even taught in school even now. And you'd look at your parents were not taught about this when they were in school. You look at grandparents, they were also not taught about this. On the internet there's a lot of knowledge. People will say, oh, you have the internet. Yes, we do have the internet, but there's a lot of fake news also on the internet. You have some articles that say that homosexuality is a sin. You have politicians like Subramaniam Swamy from the BJP who said that being homosexual is like having a mental disorder, like it's like having six fingers. So when you have politicians saying things like this, when you have fake news on the internet, then it gets very confusing. So education, I think, is one solution. Of course, as far as same-sex marriage is concerned, even I agree that it should be legalized because it is a matter of equal rights to everybody. But I also want to clarify that just legalizing same-sex marriage will not solve this problem, because discrimination will still continue. And families will say, listen, same-sex marriage is legalized, but who cares? समाज में तो homosexuality acceptable नहीं है, which is a fact in many parts of the country, especially in rural areas and even small towns. I would say even in big cities, in certain families and communities, it's not acceptable. So how does legalizing same-sex marriage help somebody who's from a very conservative Muslim family or a very conservative Jat family or a very conservative Catholic family? It will not, because people will say that it's against our religion and our faith. And I've heard this also from people who have spoken to me. And Teka has said that even though staying in modern city or area, there is homophobia. So that is a very valid point, that even today in modern, so-called modern cities, you still have homophobia. So when you have homophobia in cities, when you have, even though you have a law like the Naftaj judgment that decriminalized homosexuality, you still have a situation where parents are pressurizing their kids to get married. And by the way, this is an issue that you see even with heterosexual people. There was a Pew Research study that came out, I'm sure some of you might know, which basically found that in India, there is a great acceptance of tolerance, but there is a great prohibition towards intercaste marriage and interreligious marriage. So if you are a Muslim man who wants to marry a Hindu woman, or if you're a Hindu man wants to marry a Muslim woman, how many families will accept it? Very few. And what if you are a Brahmin man who wants to marry a Dalit girl? We all know even in today that intercaste marriage is still a problem. So in India, intercaste marriage, interreligious marriage में इतना problem है, इतना इतना conservatism है, इतना resistance है. So imagine same-sex marriage will take time, but it is also something that we have to talk about. So these are the broad issues that I've noticed, and I want to mention that we're talking about gay men marrying heterosexual women. It can also be the reverse, that a heterosexual a lesbian woman marries a straight man. That is also a big issue. So we have to look at it from all these perspectives, and we will see that it's a big issue. And education, I think, is very important, and also outreach. Education isn't just about teaching people in school, and having curriculum, and then people forget about it. This needs to be taught in the media. You need to have more movies about this. You need to have web series about this. You need to have government programs. Why is there no government initiative on this? That's completely missing. So all this is, I would actually call it awareness building rather than just education. I think this would be a way to spread awareness and to normalize same-sex relationships and to normalize, queer identities. So I'm just going to read the comments. Um, Yeah, so I think Rupesh is saying that why not acceptable? Absolutely. Legalize same sex marriage. There's nothing wrong in that, and it should be legalized. The point I'm trying to make is that simply legalizing same sex marriage will not solve the problem of gay men marrying straight women. Because even if in our country same sex marriage is a law of the land, how many parents would be okay if their child chooses to marry a man of their choice, or a woman chooses to marry a woman of their choice? People will still say, देखो ये तो लॉ बन गया, बट हमारे 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 कम्युनिटी में ये सब नहीं चलता है. हमारे कम्युनिटी में तुम्हें इस कास्ट और इस रिलीजन, इस जाति से शादी करना है. We see this in matrimonial websites also. So I think the point is that yes, we should legalize same-sex marriage, but we should also focus on advocacy and education, and we should not forget that, because till such time you don't educate people about these issues, it'll just be a law that just exists in the books. So I think this is another point that I wanted to make. So my concluding point, the thoughts will be that the next time you find somebody who's gay or lesbian who's marrying a woman who's straight, or even vice versa, you know, it's, I would say, think a little bit more carefully about why they're marrying that person. And this is a very complicated issue, because in some cases I do know some men, they misuse the fact that there are some men who misuse the fact that, okay, I'll marry a woman and side by side I'll have a boyfriend and I'll have an affair. There are some people who do things like that. That's very bad. But then there are some people who don't have a choice. And I've met such people who suffer from depression and are suicidal and are still marrying women. So I think there should be some sympathy for such people. For such people who are trying their best and are feeling depressed and suicidal. And when their own community members are saying, oh, you're ruining her life. He knows he's ruining his life, but he also doesn't know what to do. So let's also make note of these differences. And I think the broad kind of message is that there's a lot of advocacy and education that needs to be done. And yes, eventually, I think same-sex marriage would be a good option for those who wish to marry someone of the same sex. So if there are any more comments or questions that you have, you can send me an email. I'll mention my email ID in the description box. You can also follow me on Instagram. So I keep posting updates there, so you can follow me there, or we could just chat there or whatever. So I'll see if I could upload I'll see if I can upload another video soon. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you are all having a good day, and I also hope that you're all staying safe from COVID. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.